Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We're just been doing a little winterizing actually on the Honda 350 Twin. Um, for some strange reason, I'll well, I'll come over here and show you the float bowl. One of the float bowl drains actually, the screw had stripped out. Now I don't know why, but I've been running it. And I've had no problem with it, but the screw on the float bowl had stripped out and was leaking, and so I had to replace the float bowl. Now you can get that float bowl off. It's a little tricky. If you get these gas lines out of the way, you can get the float bowl off without pulling the carburetors if you just use a stubby Phillips on it. But drain the gas tank. I leave this bike inside in the winter, and I like to leave the gas tank open. In fact, you can see how clean that tank is in there. If you shut it, not so much when it's inside, but it can happen. You'll get, if it gets cool and then you've got the heat on or something like that, you can get, water condensing inside the gas tank. That's why if it's drained, I would suggest either just prop it open a little so the dust isn't settling in there, but I think it's a good idea to leave the gas tank open. There's no fumes, anything like that coming out of there. I let it actually dry out in my other I've got a little outside shop, and so I don't have to let the fumes escape in the shop in here. But this Honda, as some of you may have seen some of the videos on this bike, it just needed a lot more work than I ever thought it would when I first got it. It had relatively low miles on it, and usually these Twins are pretty bulletproof, but, it's got 7,000 and change miles on it. So it really didn't have many miles on it when I got it, but it had just been so mistreated by people. It's just crazy. The things that, I don't know, that people do for whatever reason, but I've had a lot of these 350 Twin motors apart because I used to race them. Used to do some road racing on them. But this particular Twin, it had one of the spark plug holes was stripped out. Somebody had over-tightened the spark plug. But above that, when I pulled it had low compression on one of the cylinders. And of course, it had been sitting, and when I pulled the top end off, the rocker arms and the cam had, bad metallurgy. Basically, that's what it's down to, is bad metallurgy on the rocker arms and the cam. And so, they were pitted, and the hard face on the rockers was not good on a couple of them. So it's gotten pretty darn hard to find good cams and rocker arms. You can send it in, and there are places that will, weld up and regrind your cams and things like that. But I did find a set of good rocker arms and a good cam eventually. I did. Sometimes I did order a set, a couple of different things on eBay, and of course they don't take pictures on the bad lobes on eBay or something like that. But when I got the cam, it was junk as well. I mean, it was worse than the cam I got. So that's how you can trust people sometimes. It's just disappointing, and but anyway, this bike I got. Let's see, it had, that's the original orange tank that was on it. But I kept the orange tank. It's in good shape, but I had this silver tank it had been painted in Prowler silver. I don't know if you all remember that Prowler car. Kind of an interesting car, but it was a nice color, and I like silver to begin with, especially on motorcycles. You know, it's just silver and black, and on the vintage bikes, I think it looks great. Well, not even vintage bikes, but I just like it in general. So, but you know, the bike is really well sorted. Those carburetors were an absolute mess again. Somebody had, I mean, there were numerous problems with carburetors, but one of them was somebody, for some reason, had left the butterflies, the screws in the butterflies on these carburetors were actually loose. And it's darn lucky I didn't suck one of them in, because I cleaned them and, you know, got everything sorted out on the carburetors and put them on, and it still didn't run right. And it turned out to be you know, something I had missed, which, you know, could have been disastrous if it sucked one of those screws in. So, but, you know, I don't know if there's anything on here I haven't touched. The big old taillights on these in the Hondas were, you know, partially mandated back in the day, but they're just giant, you know. And so I replaced it with this LED unit here. It did take some modifying of the fender to do that, but it wasn't bad. I put a gasket on this and used I just had some old hanger brackets from exhaust systems and like that. So I just took and modified one of those and covered the hole up. Used some nice stainless hardware to secure it, and so that looks good. I like the it's more of a BSA style looking taillight, but it sure is a lot brighter. People can see it from a long distance off. As you can see, obviously, I've got tires on there, you know, originally intended for it to do some back road riding here in West Virginia, and a lot of the back roads here are gravelly. You know, you can run gravel, and these bikes are still competent at that. There isn't any reason you can't ride one of these Honda 350s just about anywhere you want to go, other than interstate. You know, I mean, obviously you're not going to blast along at 75 or 80 on one of these, although it will do it with the proper gearing, but the back roads of, you know, a lot of these Appalachia states and, well, anywhere in the country where you've got that type of situation, I mean, they're just a blast to ride. I mean, they can be very functional. All the lights are working on this thing, you know, the low beam, high beam. The gauges are all good. Now, the front end was a complete rebuild. It got disassembled top to bottom. You know, new steering head bearings, new seals in the forks, new bushings. I mean, you name it. It got you got some good attention on the front forks. I don't know if there's, as I said, anything I haven't been over on it. The wheels, of course, I trued up and tightened the spokes, so the ones that needed, and so. You know, that's something that sometimes surprises me, is people will want to, they don't want to run tubes, and I totally get that. They don't want to, so they'll take and silicone the spokes on the inside of the rim. Well, you know, the thing is, you know, the spokes need to be tightened. I mean, you know, you can ride for a year or two, and you know, it's just part of the maintenance. When you pull tires off, you really should check the spokes and things like that. You know, I've seen, I mean, not only people, some people, not everybody, but they don't even check the spokes. It's like, well, okay, but not a great idea. So anyway, trued up the wheels. The spokes are all in the correct tension. You know, new tires, new tubes, new shocks on the rear, new exhaust system. The exhausts were shot. I recovered the seat myself. Yeah, the foam is okay under the seat. I did redo a section of this foam up here in the front just to make it a little more comfortable, but let's see, we there's a set of I used to race with a guy in Irma, and one day at the track he had a slight mishap out on the track, and he had bent a pair of Clubman bars on his bike, and I had a spare set of Clubman bars with me. I gave him the Clubman bars, and next time I saw him at a race, he brought me these BSA bars. He was a BSA guy, and so it's got a set of, let me just lower this down here. It's got a set of BSA bars on here. You can tell the bend is lower. You could see that it kind of tapers off a little bit. It gives you a little bit more of a forward lean than the stock bars, which is nice. It gets you at the right angle as you're going into the wind, and you're not sitting quite as upright. And you know, they're a little bit wider, not much. I built this bike and gave it to my daughter, and she did ride it a little bit, but she's not in a place where she's comfortable with this. It's more of a cityscape than it is rural. And so I've been tending to it here, and I think we'll put a plate on it next summer and just, you know, take some runs on it, keep it running well, and just preserve it for her. But, you know, it's like little things. There's, of course, so many things. It's for instance, the starter. These starters, the original starter in there was absolutely shot, probably from somebody cranking and cranking and cranking on this thing, you know, trying to get it running and just completely burned out the starter. So that starter there, $250 in just that starter. Something here that's interesting, you know, you can get these, what they call easy pull, you know, and not everybody needs them, but it just makes, there's a cam in here that reduces the amount of lever pull at the lever. It makes a big difference on vintage bikes. You know, if you got old vintage bikes, and they've got, some of them tend to have very heavy clutches, and so you can get these easy pulls, and I would suggest that, you know, anybody that's having that type of thing going on, give it a try, because that will make a big difference. I like these covers as well. You can get these, you know, you can lubricate the pivot points on here and then cover that up there, and then keeps a lot of the weather out of it and things like that. So, you know, new chain and sprockets. I did go a little bit taller on the gearing, one tooth on the front. I added a tooth to the sprocket on the front. And I can't remember right this minute, but I did take, I think, 2 off the back. So, you know, it really will. It'll run along, you know, comfortably at 65 or 70. You know, you can do that on this as long as you've got the gearing right, and you know, get the engine tuned properly and jetted right and things like that. It'll pull that kind of, I mean, obviously it'll go much faster than that if you really want it to, but yeah, pretty neat little bikes. They got, I always thought this tool kit was kind of cool. You know, you keep your tools in there. There's a spot under the seat for the registration and your insurance card and things like that. So, but put these little shorty pipes on there. They were, the old ones were rattling, and they were just, you know, they were shot. So, and it sounds a lot better, runs a lot better with those on there. And so we got that done. But, you know, I mean, it came out as a, I don't know, I might pull the side covers. The side covers on the engine could use a little refinishing. I never did like those shifters. The shifter actually was here, and there was linkage that went between here and down to the shift shaft that runs into the transmission here. And it just always had a lot of slop in that system, and there's pins in there, and so I always liked a more solid type of thing. I think I got that off a Yamaha 125 Enduro. In fact, I'm pretty sure, because you can see how this bend comes out, and those 125s had a big, it was electric start, so they had the side cover stuck out quite a ways, but they actually work pretty good on here if you have one laying around. And it's that type of modification. It's just little things all around the bike that you end up doing. It is a shorter set of shocks on the back by a little bit. I got it down a little bit lower well, I'm not tall either, and neither is my daughter. But, you know, that makes it a little bit more comfortable. You're not up as high and things like that. But there it is. I think it's, you know, I'm partial to vintage bikes. You can see, well, here's a sticker from the Arma. I don't know if a lot of you guys might be familiar with it. If you're looking to do some road racing with your vintage bikes and things like that, Arma's the place to go. You can have a blast. They did it for a lot of years. So, you know, it's just like anything else. You know, the competition in the classes is, you know, I mean, the guys that are running in the front, they are no slouches. If you go to a vintage race and you think, you know, I mean, these guys on these vintage bikes, you know, I mean, but, you know, there is some real talent out there in those classes, and some of the guys are you know, professional racers, and a lot of them are just hometown guys that have, you know, some of the people are not as experienced as others, and there's always somewhere to fit in there when they're with the Arma classes. But bring your A game, because it'll be faster than you think it might be. But there you go. I thought I'd just do a quick video on it. You can see that you know, a lot of work goes into these old bikes, and I enjoy it. It keeps my mind working, and so, you know, if you got something around, get out there and work on it and enjoy it. Save these old bikes when you can, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a good hobby for a lot of people that you know, and some of the parts are getting harder to find. Although some of the parts are being reproduced by a lot of people, and you can always find them. I mean, they made a lot of these 350s. A lot of the old stock is dried up, and thankfully I had stocked up on some of that stuff when I was racing, and not only on this, but I've raced a number of other vintage bikes. So I got, you know, at the time I stocked up on things that, you know, I thought I might need. So I still do have extras and old stock around that I can go back to and search around. See, most of the time I can find what I need, and if not, you know, there's plenty of sources, eBay and other places like that. So anyway, I hope y'all are having a great day, and I'll talk to you later.